Hey everybody, it's Scott with another episode of Strength and Health TV. This week's episode, I got my buddy Sticman back in the house here, and we're going to talk about our project that we did not too long ago, Eat Plants, Lift Iron, which eventually became this book. So Stick, it's great to have you back in here, man.
You too, man.
So what's been going on?
Oh man, the grind don't stop. Just been grateful. Newborn. My son
congrats.
popped into the world. So yeah, just creating, training,
Cool.
taking care of the fam.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, let's get into it here, man, because this has been something that was a while in the making, and now it's in the past. I mean, we got it, we wrapped it up. It seems like just yesterday,
Yeah.
you came in here and we started talking about this. Just so everybody knows, you and I hooked up about 2 years ago now, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was for a project that I do called Plant-Based Performance. It was for that book that we were doing. A bunch of people contributed articles to that was going to benefit Mercy for Animals. And you wrote an article about it, and then you followed that up with a question about coming up here and training because you had an idea. What was that idea? What was that?
Yeah, man. I wanted to basically gain 20 pounds, and kind of see if it was possible with certain stipulations.
Right.
Which became the Eat Plants, Lift Iron book. But essentially, I'm a long distance runner. Ectomorph, and all of the things that people say you can't gain weight. Plant based, etc. So, and I knew that you had success in that arena. And my wife, is a nutritionist and vegan chef for a long time. So
And she's the one that got you to start changing your eating habits, right?
yeah, indeed. So so that was the idea. I was like, this it's the right time, the right team. You know what I mean? And we made it happen.
Yeah, and like what you said there, how you're a big distance runner, and that alone, when you talk about gaining mass and you talk about, well, I'm an endurance guy, you don't see jacked marathon runners. It's just not efficient, So, that right away, the minute you say, well, I'm doing long distance running, you say, you're never getting mass, you never gain muscle. So that's one. And then two, you want to do it 100% whole food, plant-based.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, two, well, you're never going to do it. Vegans are skinny.
Right.
And three, you wanted to throw one more thing in there, which was no supplements, no pills, no powders, nothing.
Yeah.
All 100% whole food.
Yeah.
So that's kind of tall order,
Gluten free,
right?
because of my gluten allergies, and all nuts except peanut free.
Yeah, because you got an allergy to peanuts, right?
To all nuts, almonds, all of that.
Oh, it's peanuts that are because they're legumes that you can, right?
Yeah,
right.
yeah, but I can eat peanuts. So on top of all the other strictness, then it was like gluten. So no seitan, no, certain basic things that are staples, to gain those calories.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so we got the, you come in and it's like, geez, man. I was joking with my friend Mike Mahler and Sincere Hogan on their show, the Live Life Aggressively podcast. We talked about Eat Plants, Lift Iron because I sent them a copy to review and stuff, and they liked the book. And Mike's been a vegan for 20 years now, and he's the original strong, jacked, vegan trainer guy. He's a good guy. And we were talking about the book, and we were laughing. We were like, he's like, why didn't you just tell him you weren't going to sleep too, just to make it even harder, But because those are some pretty, they're all fine. But when you talk about gaining mass, those are things that you typically aren't going to do. The average person isn't going to do when they, typically when they go on a bodybuilding or a mass gaining program. They're going to cut back on the cardio because they don't want to burn the extra calories.
Yeah.
They're going to eat a ton of protein, and usually animal-based. The bodybuilding world, take 2 to 4 grams, per pound of body weight, and all this, and that's what the protein manufacturers want you to think too. You need all this extra protein, and it's usually animal-based. Your whey protein and eating all the meat and stuff like that, and eggs and dairy and all that stuff. And then it's going to be high calorie because you're trying to gain mass, and you did just the opposite. And I remember you came in and we were talking a little bit, and you said, do you think I could put on 20 pounds in 4 months, I think is what you said the goal was. And I said, yeah, I think we could do it in less than that. And so you went back home, we talked for a little bit, we talked about some ideas and kind of outlined the approach, and then you went home, you said, all right, man, I'll give you a call or I'll shoot you a message, and let's talk about this. And you're like, I'm in. Let's do it. So
Had to make
basically,
some adjustments, but
yeah. So we came up with a plan, and we brought in Afya to handle the nutrition, which was awesome. And I really think when you look at the book, I mean, your narrative is great because it's very personal. It's a good story. You know, it talks about how you came in, and then of course, you know, I threw in the training science and stuff. But her section of the book really, you know, as I've reviewed the book and read the book and talked to people about it, that's where the real money in the book is, because every time you talk to somebody about plant-based diet, plant-based eating, this and that, they're like, it sounds great, but what do I eat?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got all the recipes in there, you know?
Right.
And the awesome thing about it, and you know, we were talking about this on the LLA podcast, is the recipes she came up with, they're not, you don't, some of them can be pretty extravagant, you know, there's lots of, but I mean, it's stuff that anybody can do.
Yeah.
They're quick, you can throw it together, it's all healthy because it's all 100% whole foods.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of variety in there.
Yeah.
And there's you know, not only is there, you know, the foods that you are eating to gain mass, but there's the lean bulk section, the foods that you're eating when it came time to pull some fat off, and we'll talk about that more in a minute.
Yeah.
But that's where the real money in the book is in that nutrition section, because, you know, a lot of people train, you know, a lot of people have the motivation to do it, but they just don't know how and what to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And people are going to get a lot of benefit
Mm-hmm.
from that food section. So Braden Hearn was, that was the key, man, because
Mm-hmm.
you and I could have trained all day, you could have ran all day, but if you weren't fueling yourself right, the changes weren't going to happen.
Exactly. And some basic things that a lot of people, when I talk to about the book, is like just the power of pumpkin seeds.
Yeah,
Like
I love those things.
You know what I mean? How much, you know, how they equate to the amount of protein in a hamburger, you know, a fourth a cup, and things like that, you know what I mean? And the sweet potatoes, the yams, things like that. So
That was a big pre-training meal for you, wasn't it? Every time you came in to work out,
Yeah.
because you were coming in we were doing about 9 a.m. You know, 3 days a week, and you had a little drive to get in, but your pre-training meal was always a couple of yams or something
Yep.
with pumpkin seeds and cinnamon or whatever
Yep.
you did to spice it up. And then, you know, one of the ones that a lot of people liked, you posted a picture of it on Facebook and your Instagram, was was it the 1,200 calorie shake or the 1,100 calorie shake that you did?
Yeah, the iron mic, I call it. Yeah.
You come in with this mug about this big, man, and you're just sipping on it all day.
All day, yeah. But yeah, you know, being smart about it, and again, because some people look at this program and they think it's the healthy lifestyle, you know, and it's still important to be clear that this was an experiment to gain weight.
Right.
You know what I mean? And there's a difference between, you know, eating healthy and balanced and you know, versus I have a goal.
Right.
You know, so with this, it's not, I wouldn't say, you know, if you're diabetic, you don't want to eat a big shake that's 1,100 calories, you know what I mean, with a lot of maple syrup
Right.
and things like that.
When you're talking about people with chronic disease or something like that, nutrition is a completely different animal. And you know, if that's you need to talk with your healthcare provider, you need to talk with your doctor, you need to get your own nutritionist. I mean, because you've got different concerns that you need to address.
Right.
This is for somebody who's looking to gain weight, but in a healthier way.
Right.
And you know, we all know that anything taken to the extreme, whether it's weightlifting, powerlifting, bodybuilding, none of that stuff's really healthy.
Right.
You're doing that for a different reason. If you're a competitive athlete, you're focused on the overall goal, which is to win, to be the best, to, you know, and then I guess there's different levels of those. Some people are more at the hobbyist level or whatever, but anything taken to the extreme is never healthy.
Right.
So, you know, and I mean, it wasn't like you were going out trying to be Mr. Olympia or something like that. You
No,
just
not
wanted to
quite.
put on some mass, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So,
And you know, in the discipline of it, which, you know, we got into in the book, the consistency, the character development of having a goal that takes you out your comfort zone, you know, that makes you push through, you know, those moments, you know, and you know, expand, you know, grow. So for me, I knew that was healthy. You know what I mean? I know that whenever you set a goal in a reasonable amount of time, you know, it's going to be healthy because it's going to make you grow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you can always manage your daily diet, your daily health practices for longevity. But it's good to, you know, push yourself. Like, I wouldn't say run a marathon, you know, every month. You know, some people do, more than that.
Yeah.
But I think to run a marathon is a great goal to bring you to another level
Absolutely.
of cardio health. And then, you run a couple miles, regularly, you can maintain good cardio. So that's, Eat Plants, Lift Iron was that an experiment in growth, you know what I mean, and discipline, and something that a lot of people would say is impossible or very, very, challenging to do. And we pulled it off in 2.5 months.
Got the gain in 2.5 months. Your original goal was 4 months. But, and this is something that Mike addressed in the podcast that we did, and he brought up a great point. He said that one of the things that he liked about the book was how realistic it was. Because you always see these like 12-week transformations where somebody put on like 20 pounds of muscle and lost 35 pounds of fat. And he's like, man, that's all bullshit. One of the things that happened with you, we got the gain, but what came along with it, man? A little bit of a Buddha belly, right?
Yeah, the Buddha, man.
Because I remember you guys were in, was it Australia? You posted that picture on the beach. Man, your arm looked jacked, but you were messaging me going, yeah, my arm looks good, man, but I don't know if I like what's going on down here. I'm losing my abs. I said, what did I say? I said, don't worry.
Yeah.
We'll take that off later. Let's focus on the gain.
Yeah.
Got the gain. And, even the cut, you had to make some changes. And that was a new shift in focus. That was we had to go back. We adjusted the training a little, but we still train heavy. Yeah. And I think that's one thing that I wanted to get across was you don't need to cut back on the training and all that, high reps, pump and burn. You need to lift heavy weights. You still need to do the 3s and the 5s, the big lifts, the squats, the benches, the big compound movements.
Right.
But by, bumping up, the sprinting that you were doing, changing up your running a little bit, doing your distance running still, but then changing the nutrition to focus more on trimming up and leaning out. We still had a net gain of about, 13 or 14 pounds of mass or something like that. That's huge after the cut, and your body fat was lower. That's what people, now with all this extra mass, you started at 9.5% body fat, you were down at 7.5% after your cut. So you only spiked up to about 10.5%. We only put on about 1% body fat on the gain, but then the cut took you down to 7.5%, so you're even lower with more muscle mass when you ended. So, what's wrong with that, right?
Yeah, that's real.
That's a huge success. And like I said, that's reality. When you bulk, you're going to put on a little bit of fat. So you can't be married to the six-pack, if you're going to put on some size. Yeah. So talk a little bit about, when we started, it was just this goal of putting on mass. But like you said, it turned into so much more than that. And, we'd get into some conversations about other things. And, it really evolved into more of a concept or almost like a lifestyle. And, I'd written that article in the Mercy for Animals book, Eat Plants, Lift Iron, Meditate, as that's my approach to, eating plants is how I make my internal healthy. Meditating is how I focus on my spiritual and my psychological cultivation, and then lifting iron is how I focus on the physical. So that was just kind of my approach summed up, and you're like, I like that, because what we did was eat plants and lift iron, so let's call that the book. Yeah. But it's not just about eating plants and lifting weights. It evolved into so much more than that. So why don't you talk a little bit about the changes that you went through, from day one until we wrapped it up. And, not just the physical, the gain and the cut and everything like that, but those kind of metaphors and stuff that you learned along the way.
So much, man. Like you said, the whole mantra was really 3. It was eat plants, lift iron, meditate. And from the first time I think I saw your article and I saw that, it clicked. Something was like, that's alignment right there. That. And so even though we didn't call the book, meditate also, I think the process became a meditation, and just the appreciating just the iron, like being present with the iron, and as a force, as a material, as the density, the reliability of it, just that culture for me was like a grounding. So like the element itself, and then that having that practice, having a certain time to be there, having breathing to help me lift, and just fitting all that into my schedule was like a type of ironing, hardening, And then even since the experiment, like I've been applying the same kind of disciplines to short-term goals. You know what I mean? And many times I find myself like if something might be I don't want to do it or whatever, I say now if this was eat plants lift iron, is you got to get up, you got to get in traffic, you got to go and you got to do it. So and we made that happen. So I'm like, so whatever that is, I can do that. You know what I mean? It is, you know, so that the discipline, the character aspect, I think is also a gain. You know what I mean? That we didn't. That we don't always talk about when it's just the physical, you know what I mean? So going into it, I knew with your background in martial arts and compassion for animals, I knew it was going to be more than just training, you know, just LA Fitness.
You know it's definitely not LA Fitness here, that's for sure.
So yeah, man, I think I'm still, honestly, insights are still coming. You know what I mean? It's still a ongoing insights that come. You know what I mean? I have great respect for just things you taught me about the iron and our blood is iron, and you know just how iron operates in the body. You know, and that whole relationship. You know, so I still do iron training at home and at different when I'm in. Traveling in the gyms, you know what I mean, and the techniques, and it's that little experiment was a minute, and it's a lifelong process.
But and we had talked about how when we say lift iron, that was even more of an umbrella term. It wasn't just lifting weights, but it's kind of getting back to that old school kind of approach.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get on the treadmill and run. Go out to the trail and run.
Right.
Get outside and run. Get out. Immerse yourself in nature. And that was one of the things that I always liked that you talked about with your running. How you weren't just running for a marathon. It wasn't about running a race or whatever. Running was almost like a meditative practice for you.
Absolutely.
Because you get outside, you get in step, you get in your sync. It wasn't a time for you to zone out and plug into CNN on your headphones or something like that.
Right.
You were getting out, getting in tune with your breath, getting in tune with your body, and just being totally present, totally in the moment. And when you're like that, you can run forever.
Yeah.
And that's how you approach. So I mean, the whole idea of lift iron was just bringing back that old school approach to training that gets lost when you're in the chrome and fern gyms and all that stuff. It's about getting back to the basics, about the bare bone, the hardcore.
The ritual of it.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because what you said about running is the connection. Or now I'm studying Muay Thai. It's all about ritual, and ritual makes us richer. You know what I mean? It's consistent practice. So whether it's the iron, whether it's running, whether it's drinking water, you know what I mean? Whatever it is learning that. To enjoy the process repeatedly, repetition, that's
and being aware in that moment, being present. When you're drinking that glass of water, drink the glass of water.
Right.
Don't be thinking about something else.
Yeah.
And that's how everything. When you practice meditation, when you become mindful, when you bring a mindful approach to training, when you become mindful with your running, and you bring that awareness into the present moment, everything becomes a meditative practice.
Right.
That doesn't mean you don't sit down on the cushion and stare at the wall.
Right.
That means that carries over into everything else, and now you're able to be aware. Everything's in the present. You're not worrying about tomorrow. You're not regretting yesterday. You're totally focused in the moment now with what you're doing. Whether you're doing a bench press, whether you're running, whether you're eating, drinking, it's all about that conscious awareness. So that was an awesome. I know we got into some deep conversations and stuff like that through training, but I mean, I think that was the overall, like you called it. It's a culture. It's it's just this complete, just this new way of thinking. It was more than just getting in the gym and lifting weights.
Yeah. And another jewel too that you gave me about the breath in the squat rep.
Yeah.
About compressed breath, and intellectually before you taught me that, I would have thought the opposite. You know what I mean? They it said don't hold your breath. Like when you're in yoga class, it's about keeping the flow.
Right.
But the breath is a dynamic force.
Yep.
When you run, you use your breath in a certain way. In yoga, you use it a certain way. When you punch, you use it a certain way. And you showed another way to use the breath, you know, in terms of compressing it
Yeah.
and using the buoyancy of that.
To transfer the power. Because
Yeah.
what had happened was we were squatting on one of our early workouts, and as we were ramping up the weight and you were starting to get some weight on the bar, you got crushed. You went down, you got stapled. I said, oh man, I know you can make this. So what he'd done is he got down to the bottom of the squat and you let your air out, and because you thought, okay, I'm going to exhale, then breathe in it on the way up again. And what I taught you to do was to hold your breath when you drop down into the hole of the squat, so that you're building pressure in the torso, so that you're transferring power through your, from your feet into the ground, through your legs, through your torso, into the bar, and you can get it up. Then you exhale, and you take another breath for the next rep. So I taught you how to breathe
and it worked,
when you're powerlifting. Yeah, and it worked. You came back and you smoked that weight, and we kept going up. So it was just one little change made you stronger, or allowed you to display the strength that you had, I guess would be a better way to look at it. So I mean, so many, then I know we got off on tangents with music, and I introduced you to Steve Jack, and part of it too, it was fun for me because it was teaching you about the hardcore, iron, weightlifting subculture, and it was fun because it was, I was watching you discover all this stuff and come in and be like, oh, I listened to CT Fletcher's video on the way in, or oh, I listened to those Steve Jack, audios, man, it got me pumped up. It was cool to see you learning, kind of the history, because a lot of times I'm in here just lifting with people or whatever, but I mean, to be able to bring you in on that side and see you get all excited about learning and reading the books and stuff, it was cool, man. And it's like you said, it got so much more. It became less and less and less about the 20-pound gain, and more about just developing you as a person and adopting the system and elevating your physical and mental and health practices and stuff like that. So, and I think, I mean, wouldn't you say that that's probably the biggest lesson that people can get from the book, from the experiment, was get out there and open your mind and learn. Try to make yourself better.
Yeah, man.
Talk about that a little bit, man, because like I said, there's so much in that book.
Yeah, self-development, having a goal, but the goal not having you. Is you use the goal as a tool, but it's not about an attachment where you lose yourself. We talked about, the origins of a lot of our body image issues. Yeah. With women, having, they want to be thin because that's the standard, whatever. With men, it's kind of the opposite. It's all the superheroes are muscle men, and all our conditioning in society is about the size of your body. You know what I mean? And so it was important, in this experiment for me to kind of look at that as being slim all my life and dealing with what skinny men deal with, and then having this goal to gain some size, but not out of a discontent with yourself, being content with what your size is, but using the goal as more self-development, as opposed to self-denial, you know what I mean? And so that was important for me to explore, because I always wanted to gain some weight. Yeah. And I had to kind of look, and we did some research, on where does that come from. And it helped me just have more inner confidence, and appreciate all the sizes, because they have advantages, what I mean, and different things. So, just it's infinite, man. When you commit to anything, you give yourself the blessing of all the learning, that comes with that, man. So, definitely self-development is unending, and you can wash dishes and develop yourself. You can lift kettlebells and develop yourself. But like you said, you have to be mindful in the practice, and then that's when we catch the jewels. So, yeah.
That's great, man. I think it's a good place to wrap it up. I mean, I remember you making that comment in the book about, I don't know if it was in the book or when we talked or whatever, about how, you almost saw a parallel between the struggle with trying to lift a new weight and stuff like that, and adversity that you face in daily life, and just overcoming that adversity. So that like you said, there were a lot of lessons wrapped up in the iron, and it's a great teacher.
You summed it up the best. One of the days you said that lifting iron, and just like life, is about overcoming resistance. You know, progressively overcoming resistance, and that's what it's all about.
That's it, man. So where can people go to grab their copy of Eat Plants, Lift Iron in this handy dandy pocket
You know
size?
what I mean? Ready for the book bag. Man, we on Amazon. It's a universal place. Eat Plants, Lift Iron. Also, my wife and I site yojoculture.com and rbgfitclub.com. So we got a bunch of links.
And I'll put all these links in the notes below the video so people can hit it real quick. So you got it on your site. You guys got a new site which looks awesome. The Yojo Culture site, awesome, man. So you're doing seminars and you got her books, your books, apparel.
Yeah.
The few Eat Plant Lift Iron shirts that need to get sold. So go buy your Eat Plant Lift Iron shirts so we can do another run of those.
For sure, yeah. We and Yojo Culture is developing quickly. We basically are working on a healthy living university online.
Cool.
But it's grounded in practical, everyday people, alternative healing, useful best practices in the holistic health world.
Awesome.
You know, in the funky way we do it with hip hop and all that. But we want to basically make certain things more accessible.
Sure.
You know, so people can not feel like, oh, that's for someone high up in the mountains, or some, you got to be a PhD, or you got to wear your head wrapped, or whatever people think. Right. It's like, no, it's accessible, practical, scientific based information to keep the vitality up and enjoy life healthfully. So that's what Yojo's going into.
That's awesome.
Right.
That's great, man. Well, man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I've been wanting to do this for a while. I know the viewers are going to love this, so thanks for coming up and hanging out.
Boom.
And hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode of Strength and Health TV. See you next week, and until then, stay strong and stay healthy.